morning again. So I'll not take much of your time. I'll just give a quick introduction of Vinay sir. Vinay sir, he's an advocate and a partner at Krishna Kumar and Sridharan. He's also a qualified chartered accountant, all India rank holder at ICAI and ICSI examination. His core area of practice is indirect taxation. He specializes in GST and cover tax. He regularly appears before various judicial and public forums, and his arguments several matters which are also reputed judgments to his credit. And he's a part of IDT Technical Committee Chamber of Tax Consultant. He's an active speaker at various various professional industrial forums, and of course his articles are also published in leading journals. And we welcome you, sir, on behalf of WIC. Thank you for being here today. And sir will guide us on interpretation show cause notice provisions under GST. I think people are looking forward for it. The big challenge for us, the professional, and still we are happy to have you. We are honored to have you. Thank you so much, sir. And I request Pinky ma'am to give the topic moment to sir. So Vinay sir will take the session now. Thank you.
Morning, all of you. First of all, thank you for inviting me. Actually, the biggest beneficiary of this entire exercise is not the participant, not the organizer. It's the person who is speaking, because we also get the opportunity to go into much deeper into the subject, and therefore the biggest advantage is with the beneficiary is speaker only. Therefore, that's the reason I'm very thankful for you for inviting me for this session. I was just thinking because today is a Saturday and Saturday morning, 10 o'clock. So, and the subject is tax. So, it will be very taxing on you. So, I was thinking that whether I should tone down or this thing, some provisions to be in this thing little in the lower or middle stage. But then I realized that you yourself has chosen CA profession, first and foremost. You have chosen CA profession and you paid for today's session. It's not so आपने खुद पैसा देके आपदा मोल ली है, ठीक है? तो I will be troubling you. I will be troubling you, and you can also trouble me. No problem. You can also trouble me. I want this session to be a live session. Live session. I am not here to give any kind of lecture to you. That I know I want to learn from you. I am not going to give any lecture. First and foremost, I will be in the first 15-20 minutes. First of all, we are already delayed. 10:30 is already there. So you must have heard that postman story that I should not be doing the second mistake. Even if it is a late starting, I should be completing on the time. I will do my best to do that. In the first listing, I will be covering 15-20 minutes. I will be covering the basic provisions, and thereafter we will go into the specific issues. And for your benefit, I have extracted the provisions also. So kindly be attentive. I am going to ask you question. I am not going to spare you. Okay? You can't say that मेरे पास book नहीं है, provision नहीं है. Where I have to see? Provision also there. Issues are also here. You have to interpret live. We will interpret. We'll try to find a solution. I will try to give some answers which probably I may be aware of. So I will try my best to give that answer. But certainly, I am going to ask question. You are a professionals. Provisions are there. Issues are there. Circulars are there. Everything is there in the PPT. You have to answer. So be kindly be attentive. Okay. So first and foremost, we will cover few of the provisions. So far as the GST litigation concerned, the booming sector, so many litigations are going on. Department left, right, center corner, they are issuing the notices. So it's a very imperative on our part as a professional to understand what is the modus operandi of the department, whether what are the procedure followed, whether it is in accordance with the law or not. And there not only procedure, but we have to be aware of the substantive provision also. Most of the people must be aware of this provision, but just for the benefit of all, within 10-15 minutes, I just want to very briefly cover the statutory provisions. So provisions are only main provisions are section 73, 74, 75, 76. These are the four provisions only If you remember these four provisions, then you are through in the subject. So first and foremost, for the show cause notice, section 73 is the first provision. 73(1) says if any tax is not being paid, short paid, erroneously refunded, then show cause notice can be issued. And the 73(1) can be invoked only in the cases where the fraud and suppression is not there. If the case does not involve fraud and suppression, in normal cases, they can issue notice under 73(1). That's the first provision. And there is a time limit also given under 72, that by what time show cause notice is required to be issued. Kindly be attentive, I will be asking questions. Okay. So 73(2), the time limit for issuance of show cause notice is 3 months prior to the 3 years from the date of filing of annual return. The earlier regime, there was a only provision for issuance of notice time limit was given. So far as the central excise is concerned, so far as service tax is concerned, the time limit given was only with respect to issuance of the notice, 30 months, 18 months as the case may be. Now, they have given the time limit for both, for the issuance of notice also, as well as the passing of the order. If the notice is also not issued within the specified period of time, then it's over. And also, if order is also not passed within 3 years or so, then also nothing can be done thereafter. So there are statutory time for passing of the order also, the statutory time for issuing of the show cause notice also. Both these time limitation has been given. Then this statement under 73, 74, these are only to just avoid the paperwork, because if the department will going to the same allegations, it will be unnecessary paperwork for them issuing long show cause notice. So there is a benevolent provision which says that in case there is a subsequent period, you can just issue a statement, just a table kind of thing. That is a subsequent period, this thing is there, and based on that you have to answer that. So only condition here is the grounds and the factual position and legal position should be the same. If it is different, then such statement cannot be issued. Then these are litigation avoidance measures are provided under section 735 and 738. So no problem if during the regular course of time, even if you are not complied with the law, but the law, the GST Act provides you an option to regularize the same. Therefore, in case any kind of audit or something are on your own this thing, if you have come to know that shopper you are not complied with the law, you are not paid taxes, then you have the given the opportunity that prior to issuance of notice you can pay tax and interest, and the proceeding can be closed. So that is one option given to you. Even if you don't exercise that option, if you feel that no show cause तो आएगा नहीं देखते, then even if show cause comes, and thereafter within 30 days of the notice, if you pay tax and interest, then also provisions will be, the proceedings are deemed to be concluded. What is the implication of proceeding deemed to be concluded? There are certain issues which we have highlighted. All these provisions just for the understanding, whatever the technical issues are there, we'll discuss in the subsequent slides. So suffice to say that proceedings will be deemed to be concluded under 735 and 738. Then under 739 is the determination. You will determine the tax, interest, and 10% of the penalty. Only 10%. Nothing else. Only 10% of the penalty. And order is also now specifically years to pass within 3 years from the date of furnishing annual return. Otherwise, proceedings are concluded. This is also one of the important provisions, 7311, which now I said you have the option to foreclose the proceeding by way of either tax and interest prior to show cause notice, or within 30 days of the issuance of notice also you have the option to foreclose. However, there are exceptions provided. So 7311 is one of such exception, where amount of self-assessed tax, if you have self-assessed the tax and not paid the tax, or you have collected the tax and not paid to the government, in these two types of circumstances, you don't have the option to foreclose. In other words, in the other scenario, you can pay tax interest and close the matter. So far as this particular portion is concerned, self-assessed tax and amount collected as tax, you don't have the option. Whether, therefore, the question will be whether in those circumstances, whether irrespective of the fact penalty is 100% leviable or not, is one of the questions we will deal with. But just to note that 7311 is there, which says that in both two situations, self-assessed tax and amount collected in tax and not paid, in those circumstances, you don't have the option to foreclose the matter. Now, 73 is only where the fraud suppression is not there. 74 is the option where fraud suppression is there. The only difference being 73 and 74 is in 73, only 3 years time period is there. In 74, since fraud suppression is there, so revenue has been given the higher time period. So instead of 3 years, it will be 5 years. Instead of 3 months notice, it will be 6 months notice. But for that, there is no other provision. Here, penalty will be instead of 10%, it will be 100% penalty. The only difference in 74 is fraud suppression, 6 months and 5 years. Now the litigation avoidance measures is there. Now here you can pay tax, interest and 15% of the penalty, because here the tax penalty quantum is 100% equal to the amount of tax. You have given the option to pay tax, interest and 15% of penalty prior to issuance of notice. If you comply with that, then the proceeding will be deemed to be concluded. But generally, what happens in real life is the officer will call you. Officer will say, "Yeah, you have not paid these taxes. I have my own targets to complete. You just pay tax and interest, and I will let you go." Your client will fall trap in that. He will say, "Okay, bhaiya, I will pay the tax, I'll interest, then he will not issue notice to me, he will treat under 73. But as and when you pay tax and interest, thereafter that fellow will come and say, "I have spoke to my boss, he's saying you have to comply with the penalty also." Then the assessee has no option. He will say, "Okay, either 15% भरना है, नहीं तो मेरे को 100% भरना पड़ेगा, so I don't have any option. 15% भर के मैं खत्म कर देता." So these are the real traps laid by the departmental officer, that first they will ask you to pay tax, then interest, and thereafter they will ask for the penalty also. So how to get over that, and whether we can restrict the quantum of penalty and then also we can contest, is one of the questions we will be answering in our session. Then here within show cause notice के 30 days के अंदर also you can pay 25% of penalty and you can foreclose the matter. This is 5% only. And another deeming provision is unlike 73, because 73 may you have the option to pay prior to notice, within 30 days of notice. After order there is no option. After order there is no option that you can reduce the quantum of the penalty. But here in 74 you have the option to pay 50% of the penalty and then foreclose the matter. That is the additional option given under section 74. When it says all proceeding in respect of said notice will be deemed to be concluded, whether it will absolve your client from the prosecution also, answer is no. Only thing what can happen is your civil consequences will go. Prosecutions can still be continued. It can be prosecuted, because the all proceedings shall not include proceeding under section 132. So prosecution can be done. It's not the case that your client will feel, okay, मैंने भर दिया tax interest 15% penalty, गंगा नाली नहीं, वैसा नहीं होने वाला है. Proceeding can be issued under 132 also. Another explanation is where the proceedings are concluded against the main person. Proceedings are concluded against the main person, main notices. There are co-notices, director and this thing also involved. So what will happen to those proceedings? Whether those proceedings also deemed to be concluded? So they have provided a measure in this thing itself that in proceeding agar main person has been concluded, interpretation what will mean by separation. So now they would try to define it statutorily in order to whatever argument the SSC was having at that point of time, in order to foreclose that. Now they are saying we will statutorily will define the separation. And what is separation according to them is, if something is required to declare in the return, if something is required to declare in the return, if you not declared so, or something has been asked for, the officer is asking something from you, and if you are not providing, then also it can be amount to separation. Very harsh provision, but we will see what extent they can utilize in our issues session. So these are the broad provision, and this section 75 is a very benevolent provision. What you call, like whatever the earlier the judgment law, whatever judgment law was there, that has been codified under section 75. So it says when we are seeing the time limit of 3 years, 5 years, if something is pending, you have filed a writ petition in the High Court, and the stay period is operating, whether that period is excluded, they have statutorily provided that that period will be excluded. And what if the notice is issued under 74, inter alia alleging separation, okay, and then ultimately held that separation is not sustainable, then what will the consequences? What are the consequences that they also provided? They will deem as if the notice issued under 73. There are a number of issues in this particular section. we will deal with that also. Opportunity of hearing to be granted, maximum 3 hearings can be done, but in the practice we have seen number of opportunities are granted. It's just for the prescribed this thing. They're saying mandatory no maximum opportunity. Three after 3 opportunity we will not be able to give. But practically, officer can grant n number of opportunity. It's not it's from your side. You can't ask for more than 3 adjournment, but the officer willing to grant, there's absolutely no problem. It can be more than 3 also. Order cannot be go beyond the scope of shock notice. The judgment law, settled law that they are codified in the section 75 itself. And somebody can argue that my notice only talks about the tax amount. Interest is not specifically mentioned, so therefore I am not liable to interest. That argument otherwise also not correct, because interest is consequential. Otherwise also not correct, but now they are codifying that interest is automatic. Even if it is mentioned in the notice, not mentioned in the notice, it will be automatic. When order is not passed, procedure are deemed to be concluded. They are saying if it is any amount of self-assessed tax, because you yourself assess that this particular item is liable to GST, and thereafter you don't pay that. For that, they have made a specific provision. I did not have to issue any notice to you, because you yourself are accepting that the particular item is liable to GST. Then why I should issue any notice? In such circumstances, I will straight away proceed for the recovery. Okay, without issuance of any notice. But are there any exception to this same, or whether this provision is correct? That we will deal in our issue section. And then it says 7374 is also a settled law. For the same offense, you can't be penalized more than once. It can't be the case that for the same offense I will hang you under this section, that section also. Though this section says if penalty is imposed under 7374, no other penalty in form of 122 or this thing will be imposed. These are the some of the provisions. Then this section 76 is on principle of unjust enrichment. You can't unjustly enrich yourself, because it can't be the case that you collect the sum from the customer, keep it in your own pocket. That is not possible. So on that principle, this section 76 has been incorporated. That if you collect any amount representing as tax, then you have to pay to the government. But what is the meaning of the term representing as tax? That we will deal in our this thing. Here, unlike 73, 74, there is no time limit provided. Whether they can come after 20 years, 25 years, one of the question we are going to answer that. Order time limit is here also. Order ka time limit is given within 1 year of the date of Shoko notice. You have to pass an order, but there is no time limit for issuance of the notice. And as Article 265 says that no tax can be collected without the authority of law. So it's not the case that if tax is not payable, I have collected, then revenue can retain with them. They can't retain, because tax is not payable. It has to go to the either consumer welfare fund or person who has borne the incident of the tax, and therefore government can't collect retain. If tax is payable, to that extent government can retain. If tax is not payable and I have collected any amount as representing tax, that has to go to consumer welfare fund. Government cannot retain that. So these are the 4 provisions which are incorporated. Now issue number 1. Now your trouble starts now. 739 provision is there. The proper officer says, so after considering the representation, so and so, if determine the amount of tax, interest, and a penalty equivalent to 10% of the tax, 10,000 rupees, whichever is higher. Okay, this is the only provision. Nothing, you know, to see anything else. Proper officer shall, after considering the representation, determine the amount of tax, interest, and a penalty equivalent to 10% of the tax. Okay, there is no word anything showing that you have modified, non-modified. Okay, and penalty is only 10%. So therefore, whether interest is also interest is automatic, whether it is mentioned as we have seen, interest is automatic. Then whether penalty is also automatic. This is the only provision. बताइए सर, आप बताइए सर, यही प्रोविजन है, इसके अलावा कुछ नहीं. आपके हिसाब से पेनल्टी लगना चाहिए कि नहीं लगना? Every case where section 73 notice has been issued, you are liable to pay tax, interest, and a 10% of penalty. Whether that provision is correct or not, आपके हिसाब से जो आपको आंसर ठीक लगता है. हाँ सर, नहीं लगना चाहिए. और कौन है सर नहीं लगने वाले? नहीं लगना चाहिए, 3-4 हाथ खड़े हुए, 5-6-7 और बहुत सारे हैं, अब सबको बोल रहे हैं नहीं लगना चाहिए, नहीं लगना। ठीक है सर, देखते हैं। एनी पर्टिकुलर रीजन सर वाई मेंस रिया? We'll, so no right or wrong answer, it's only just deliberation. Sir is saying mens rea, that mens rea is required in order to impose penalty. Mens rea is required. Mens rea is required. The guilty intent is required. Okay. And as I said, the difference between 73 and 74 is in 74, suppression of acts, mala fide intention is required. 73, that provision is not required. Not required. Therefore, any other reasons or any other reason people can think of, like other than mens rea, mens rea is one answer, no problem. That may be one of the considerations. Other than that, uh-huh, uh-huh. Correct, sir. So in that case, the penalty will be that proceedings are foreclosed. But we are talking about a case where proceedings are not foreclosed. Proceedings are continuing. You are not accepted. You are contesting tax, interest, and then order is to be passed. At that stage, whether the officer has any kind of discretion not to levy penalty under 79, we will deliberate further. We will deliberate little, but thereafter also we again will ask. Okay. So this legal maxim says an act is not wrongful unless it is accompanied by wrongful state of mind. So penalty is generally something which is levied for the deliberate delinquency of the laws. Deliberate law. In each and every, unlike interest, it should not be automatic. That's what our 1969 Hindustan Steel also says, that its penalty will not be ordinarily imposed, either deliberate in defiance of law, dishonor acted in conscious regard of obligation, even if minimum penalty is prescribed. So even if minimum penalty is prescribed, authority compelled to impose penalty will be justified in refusing impose penalty if the breach flows from bona fide belief. So if you have something of a bona fide belief that this particular provision is not applicable to me, and if you act upon that, in such circumstances, Hindustan Steel 1969 says penalty will not be levied, but much of the water has been flown thereafter. Now, one more provision I want to just highlight. This 126 is the general discipline relating to penalty. These are as good as 75, because 75 also they have codified many of the provisions which court has interpreted. This says, so now we have seen Hindustan Steel, no officer under the impose any penalty for minor breach of tax regulation. Okay, procedural requirement, any omission mistake, rectifiable made without fraudulent intent are gross negligence. So whatever Hindustan Steel says has been incorporated under section 126(1). Assess is very happy, tax department तो बहुत अच्छा है, हमको इसका the next problem, if you see, what will be the minor breach? It shall be considered as minor breach. Amount involved is less than 5,000. Therefore, they have taken away all your arguments to say that if it's a minor breach, it will be only 5,000 rupees. If it's more than 5,000, then it will not be considered minor breach. If not be considered minor, that's one provision. Then the penalty imposed under this act shall depend on the facts and circumstances of each case. It shall be commensurate with degree and severity of the breach. So therefore, assessee again happy, okay, that it will be depend on the facts and circumstances. So I can justify my bona fide belief why I have acted so. I can justify so. But that next, if you say the next provision, provisions of this section shall not apply. In such cases, that when either percentage, 10%. So assessee is again the thing in the tell. Everything is given okay, 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 laddu, 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 and then last में आपको जहर दे दिया. Therefore, this particular provision will not apply in this case. Okay, we have seen Hindustan Steel, we have seen the legal maxim, which supports your view, sir. We have seen the 126 also and concluded that 126 will not apply in this case. Now, thereafter, I said that much of the water has been flown thereafter. So, in catering of decisions thereafter, after Hindustan Steel, in respect of ED proceeding, in respect of Factories Act, in respect of sales tax, income tax, SEBI proceeding, as well as the central access proceeding, it is consistently it is held that in so far as the civil obligation is concerned, it is not necessary to have mens rea. If it is penalty, hence it is not a civil, not a quasi requirement before imposing penalty under respective tax statute. If section incorporates such words, then necessarily has to prove, because 74 incorporates such words that you have guilty minds separation of facts is required. So if that is the case, 100% department has to prove. It's a duty and burden on the revenue to prove that when you have acted in delinquency of the law. But so far as the section does not incorporate any such word, in such circumstances, series of decision holding that mens rea is not required. Okay. Next. Prior to that, go to previous slide. अभी क्या करना है सर? Any further deliberations on that? Now we have seen some decision says mens rea is required. Thereafter, series of decision in different statutes says mens rea is not required. 74 requires mens rea, 73 does not require mens rea. Any change in the thought that now whether penalty can be imposed in the 73 automatic? Any change? Or you are still of the opinion penalty cannot be imposed? You will be more than happy to say that no, still, yes, sir. Each case to be seen. But we have seen, sir, that the provision will not apply insofar as the fixed penalty. Even then, you are of that view, sir. Okay. Any view supporting such view? दिल से यही है आपको कि पेनल्टी नहीं लगेगा, नहीं लगेगा. I am also with you only. No problem. I am not on revenue side. I am also here to help you, and we are as a collective. We are going to say that penalty is not leviable. But what is the legal answer there? What is the legal answer? By merely saying that penalty नहीं लगना चाहिए may not be this correct answer to say. What are the logical reasons or answers therefore? और क्या हो सकता है सर? Let us see on the this slide. Okay, this one on previous slide. So after all these decisions, there is a silver lining for you. There is a silver lining for you. After Hindustan Steel, after all the decision holding mens rea is not required, there are two decisions, this Barjatia Steel and UB Fabrics, which may support your view that penalty should not be imposed. So in this case, they have held that where the assessing officer has a discretion not to levy penalty, then mens rea become relevant. And they also distinguished other decisions holding that Hindustan Steel was not being considered or cited in the ED cases and other cases, and therefore Hindustan Steel is prior to that, and therefore you can argue. In this case, they are decide against the party on the ground that in that facts suppression of facts is there. But at a matter of legal proposition, they have said that it's not the discretionary. Then you have the discretion, not necessarily mens rea becomes a relevant factor. Even such circumstances, you can apply the mens rea. Second decision is this UP versus Sanjeev Fabrics. Here again, the ultimate matter decided against the party, because that matter also their facts and circumstances are against the party. But they have laid down some principles. They have laid down some principles that in what circumstances you will see mens rea required. It depends upon what is the object and scheme of the statute, what is the language of the section, what is the nature of the penalty. So these are the three criteria laid down by the Sanjeev Fabrics case in Supreme Court. You have to apply three criteria. But even if you apply three criteria, we have some difficulty, because what is the object and scheme of the statute is the collection of GST. Collection of the GST. The language of the section, our section as such does not incorporate any mens rea. What is the nature of penalty? Somebody can say that person, he is complying with the law. Okay, he is complying with the law, duly paying taxes. You have not complied with the law, and thereafter one department has proceeded against you. Thereafter you are paying something and this thing, and then even then you are not foreclosing the matter. Even though you are not given the option to foreclose the matter, that option also you are not exercising, and then contesting, and ultimately we are imposing an order. We are passing an order, and in some circumstances we should levy penalty. That can be one way of looking at it. Somebody can say that 10% is very minimal. 10% is very minimal, because he is acted in accordance with law. You are not acted in accordance with law. Why I should not impose minimum penalty of 10%? So that can be the thing. So therefore, it's a very difficult to contest the penalty under 73. 74 still n number of reasons, thousands of reasons are there to say मैंने ऐसा किया, मेरे consultant ने मेरे को advise किया, मेरा product ऐसा है, classification dispute है, Supreme Court judgment है, ये है वो है, everything you can argue, and you can save the penalty under 74. But 73 penalty is a very difficult. But having said so, in view of both these decisions, according to me, you can still contend. We have still scope to contend that unlike interest, penalty should not be automatic. Penalty should not be automatic. we can contest so, but it will be resolved ultimately by the Supreme Court. As of now, there are decisions on both sides. Therefore, as and when the court will resolve, we will have some clarity. But insofar as the prosecution is concerned, insofar as 74 is concerned, mens rea is must. Mens rea is must. 73 is not required. But still, for example, I can give one example. Like, for example, a sing officer decide in your favor. Okay. Subsequently, your revenue is in appeal. And during the interregnum period, you are following the practice, which is department has decided in your favor. Whether penalty can be imposed? Commissioner has decided in your favor for this particular period. Revenue is an appeal before the tribunal or high court as the case may be. During the interregnum period, you are following the practice which commissioner has affirmed in your favor. Whether still penalty can be levied? It should not be. It should not be. It should not be because you are following whatever has been decided in your favor. Therefore, there are justifiable circumstances and exception. Very, very difficult. But still, you have something to say that penalty is not automatic. In my personal opinion, it's not automatic. It's not automatic. In exceptional cases, we can certainly argue so. But very difficult to contend. This will not be automatic. In service tech regime, 70 similar penalty was under section 76 of the Finance Act 1994. But because of section 80, there was some section 80 was there, which says that in such justifiable circumstances, penalty can be deleted. Because of 80, we could have got over section 76. But there is no provision. Ideally, because GST also is a very new law, they should have incorporated similar provision of section 80. Unfortunately, they have not provided any such provisions in 80, but still we can contend in justifiable cases. Any questions on this, sir? Okay. Should we move on the next, sir? The next question which frequently comes from the client कि भाई मैं 10 टैक्स इंटरेस्ट 15% पेनल्टी भर दूं और मेरा पेनल्टी का मैक्सिमम एक्सपोजर कैप कर लूं, उसके बाद भी मैं कंटेस्ट कर सकता हूँ? बिकॉज दोनों हाथ में लड्डू चाहिए मेरे को. एक तो 15% का बेनिफिट भी लेना है और मेरे को कंटेस्ट भी करना है. सो दैट अल्टीमेटली इफ टैक्स इंटरेस्ट इज डिसाइडेड इन माय फेवर, आई कैन टेक बैक द रिफंड ऑफ द 15% पेनल्टी आल्सो. Whether he can do so is the question. Okay, question is clear? Clear, sir? Now, provisions are also there. The person chargeable with tax before a service of notice pay the amount tax also equivalent to 50. These are 74. These are not 73. These are under 74. Before service of notice, he can pay 15% of penalty and inform the officer that I have paid 15% of penalty. Don't issue any notice to me. That one option you can do. Based on your representation, he will not issue any notice to you. Okay. Second option is if you pay tax interest in 25% of penalty within 30 days of the notice is issued, then also proceedings are deemed to be concluded. He will issue some DRC 05 or something that you have paid tax interest in 25% penalty, and therefore order is passed to confirm, or like proceedings are deemed to be concluded. No order will be passed on merits. So the third option where after the order is passed, you can pay tax interest and 50% of the penalty and date of communication order, and all proceeding in respect of said notice shall be deemed to be concluded. Okay. Provisions are clear. One option before notice, tax interest 15% you pay, khatam. Tax interest 25% you pay after notice. He will simply issue one page later DRC 05 कि आपका proceeding खत्म हो गया. तीसरा option है कि order is passed on merits against you. Okay. Thereafter, within 30 days, you are opting for payment of tax interest 50% penalty. But your client says नहीं भैया मेरे को दोनों हाथ में लड्डू रखना है, कर सकते कि नहीं? Any answer, sir? Any answer, madam? जो आप ये प्रोविजन इतना ही है लैंग्वेज equivalent to 15% of tax and inform proper means of writing, and thereafter all शॉप नोटिस इशू नहीं होगा. फर्स्ट केस में, चलो फर्स्ट केस का आंसर मैं ही दे देता हूँ. फर्स्ट केस में टैक्स इंटरेस्ट में 15% ऑफ पेनल्टी लगेगा, शोको नोटिस ही नहीं आएगा, खत्म. तो उसके बाद तो आप कुछ कर नहीं सकते उसको. यू कांट चेंज एनीथिंग विद रिस्पेक्ट टू दैट. बट सेकंड केस में आपको शोको नोटिस आया है, आपने टैक्स इंटरेस्ट 25% पेनल्टी भर दिया है, आपका क्लाइंट कंटेस्ट करना चाह रहा है, पेनल्टी कैप करना चाह रहा है, वेदर यू कैन डू सो. यस सर, आप बताइए सर. हाँ, कंटेस्ट कर सकते हो. और आंसर सर? हाँ सर. हाँ, करेक्ट. ओके, ठीक है, गुड आंसर, गुड आंसर। आप क्या बोले थे सर? हाँ। हम्म 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 okay, okay, even though the it says that proceedings are deemed to be concluded, what you what you will challenge, sir? Like show cause notice will issue to you. You will pay tax interest and 25% of the penalty within 30 days of issue of the notice. Okay. He will not pass any order. He will only issue a form DR05 that party has paid tax, interest, 25% of penalty, and their proceedings are concluded. What you will challenge, sir? Okay. So, sir, your suggestion is I can inform the officer that I am opting for tax interest and 25% of penalty option. But as such, I have not accepted your contention of the notice. I am going to file reply. You have to pass an order. I will change in that order. But sir, in practical scenario, this will not doesn't going to happen. Not going to happen because if you will pass an order, then you will file an appeal. Okay, you will file an appeal. Any other views on the same, sir? Any other view? Contest कर सकते हैं, नहीं कर सकते? नहीं, रिट फाइल करेंगे तो कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है। इट इज डिफरेंट कोर्ट ऑफ रेमेडी, बट आप दोनों चाहिए आपको, टैक्स इंटरेस्ट 25% पेनल्टी भी पे करना है एंड प्रोसीडिंग भी कंटेस्ट करना है। विल लिटिल डिलिबरेट ऑन द सेम एंड देयर आफ्टर आई आस्क द अगेन क्वेश्चन, सर। नेक्स्ट स्लाइड। So now in section 96(3) of the CPC, there is a specific provision which says that no appeal shall file from a decree passed by the consent of the party. So it's a consent decree, you can't appeal because there's a consent between you and the other side that yes, we are aligned with this particular this compromise. Thereafter, you cannot file an appeal against that consent decree. And secondly, 107(1) of CGST Act requires that you should be aggrieved by the order. How you are aggrieved by the order of the commissioner, which says that I am concluding the proceeding under particular provision of law 74(5). I am issuing a DRC 05 form saying that proceedings are deemed to be concluded. How you are aggrieved by say? So these are the challenges. If you see section 78 of the Service Tax Act, Finance Act 1994, the language was slightly different. It says if you pay tax interest 15% of penalty and the proceeding shall be deemed to be concluded. Here again, the if prior to the notice stage you issue pay tax interest and 15% of penalty, proceedings are deemed to be concluded. But if you see the next provision, the date of receipt of the order determining the amount of service tax, the penalty payable shall be 25% of the service tax not determined. So see the difference. See the difference here. It says if you pay 25% of the penalty within 30 days of the communication, then the penalty shall be 25%. So what we are saying that the quantum of penalty. So earlier it was possible, and we number of cases we have filed a appeal to the tribunal, capping the penalty to 25%. Thereafter we have filed an appeal. Assessee succeeded in the matter. He got refund of the tax interest 25% penalty also. But the language was different. In the very same provision, there are both the provisions were there. One provision, proceedings are deemed to be concluded. Another provision, the penalty shall be 25%. So these are the comparison between the Finance Act and the GST Act. Next. Next. Go to the previous slide. Previous slide. So our now every section, whether prior to notice, after order, everywhere it says proceedings are deemed to be concluded. Okay. So even then, according to me, very difficult or some absolutely in that sense not possible to say that cannot be contested. But insofar as the last provision is concerned, insofar as the last proceeding is concerned, where you pay tax interest and 50%, here the speaking order is there. Here speaking order is there. He has passed the speaking order. You can contend. You can file an appeal. You can file an appeal. You can say I am aggrieved by the tax interest and 50% of the penalty. You can pay 50%, but there only my advice would be you have to see whether you have some merits in the case or not. Okay, sir. If you feel that you have foolproof case or you have good case, more than 75% chance of winning, don't opt for this option. Don't opt for this option. Contest on merits. If you feel that you have a weak case on merits, then pay tax interest 50% of penalty. File an appeal. Let us see what happens, because these are in the initial stage of development of the law. There are no settled precedent on that. Therefore, in my humble submission, in my view, before notice stage or after notice stage are not possible. After order you can try, but only you have to try in the cases where you have a weak case. Any questions on this, sir? Okay, sir. Move on the next. So in the beginning we have seen 17311. Again I have reproduced that notwithstanding anything contained in subsection 6, penalty under section 9 shall be payable where any amount of self-assessed tax, any amount collected as tax has not been paid within period of 30 days from the due date of payment of tax. Okay, provision is clear. Self-assessed tax है, amount collected as tax and not paid. In both the situations, you don't have the option to foreclose the matter. You can't say that I pay tax interest and 15%, 10%, whatever the case of penalty, and I want to close that matter. That is not possible. Is this mean? Is this mean that in both the situations, penalty is mandatory required to be imposed? I'm not asking about the first question whether 73 is a mandatory or not. That is a different question. I am not on that. I am on the point that in these situations, self-assessed tax and amount collected as tax, whether you can contend that the horse 7311 is there, still penalty will not be leviable. If I pay tax interest, whatever the case, if you have some options available with you. Any answer, sir? Madam, आप बताइए. No, I am only saying, madam, you have provided various options to foreclose the matter. You can pay tax interest, 15% penalty, or whatever the case may be. You can conclude the matter. The law says in both these situations, self-assessed tax and amount collected as the tax has not been paid. In both these situations, you don't have the option to foreclose the matter. What is the meaning thereof? Therefore, in those situations, whether penalty will be mandatory will be imposed on you. Yes, yes. Okay. Only thing is you can take shelter of this provision or this circular, which clarifies that, because, like example, if you make some delay, like example, April May you are supposed to make some payment of tax, you are not paid so, but June May you are July के अंदर you have paid taxes along with interest, so without any thing from the department. Whether this provision will apply, sir? Separation is 73 है. This is 73. Separation का तो question नहीं है. So question is clear, sir. April May you were supposed to make payment of taxes. You are delayed by 30 days. 30 days. So in July you are paid along with interest. You collected the tax in April. You are paid in July along with interest without any insistence from the department. Return has been filed. Everything is clear. But there's still penalty imposed in this particular provision. Yes, sir. Sorry, sir. Yes. Yes. So penalty will be leviable because you are aware that self-assessed tax hai. You have to pay though. Only exception, like department themselves is clarified. Department themselves clarified that it will apply only in the case where the 73 proceedings are initiated. In other words, therefore, it generally does not issue any payment of taxes. Okay. And they said so in the clarification that we will not issue if there is a delayed payment of tax more than 30 days. So we will not initiate, generally don't initiate any proceeding under 73. In such circumstances, this provision will not apply. Meaning thereby that in case the proceedings are initiated under 73, this penalty will apply. You cannot foreclose. So, but prior to that, merely because your client has delayed payment of taxes more than 3 months, 4 months as the case may be, but he has paid tax along with the interest, this penalty provision will not be applicable. That is the only exception provided. Now, one more thing on what is the definition of separation. Nowadays, we are seeing every notice where the time limit has expired. They will definitely will say that this separation is there because they have to, otherwise they can't issue notice. Okay. And separation also definition we have seen the statute definition again reproduced. Anything which is required to declare in the return. and not been declared, and anything asked for you have failed to provide so, okay, then the separation clause will be invoked. Is this mean? Is this mean that if you are bona fidely holding some view on the matter, and you, in view of that, you declare in the return accordingly or non-declare in the return accordingly, whether department can say it still has separation? Because if you go simply by the language of the section, simply by the language, anything which you are declaring in the return and not being declared so, it will amount to separation. Or what will be the relevance of the earlier cases? Earlier cases, my only this thing is you only rely on the High Court or Supreme Court decision only, because that will be still be binding in the GST regime. Because High Court and Supreme Court is the declaration of the law. Whatever High Court, Supreme Court decisions are there, you can verily rely. Tribunal only will have, system will only have the persuasive value. That will not have any binding value. Okay, that will only have persuasive value. That accordingly, therefore, the past decision will be still be relevant. In this regard, I just want to highlight two decisions: one income tax, another sales tax. So in this Muttaya Chettiar income tax proceeding, the question was whether I should declare the income of the minor's income, whether I should declare in the return. And if I don't declare so, whether it amount to separation. Question is clear that he was the supposed to include the value of the minor's income in his return. If he has don't declare so, whether it will be amounting to separation. In that context, Supreme Court has held that your printed forms, the instruction says you have to declare the incomes minor. But if you go to the actual form of the return, there is no column in the return. So if there is no column in the return for inter alia to disclose the particular transaction, that will not amount to separation. That will not amount to separation. Meaning thereby, suppose therefore I am selling Google vouchers to you. Okay, I am selling Google vouchers. There's a big question whether the sale of voucher amounting to supply of service are only a transaction in money. Okay, it's a big question. Assume your client holds a bona fide belief that what I am doing is a transaction in money. Okay, is there any column in your GSTR 3B to declare transaction in money? There is no column. There is no column. Whether revenue can say that you ought to have declared, because it's a not transaction in money, it's a merely supply of service. They may hold so, because revenue may have the view that it's a supply of service. You are holding the view that it's a transaction in money. You don't declare in the return. You can take shelter of decision to say that transaction in money not required to be included. So I was not supposed to. So what is expected from me? What is expected from me? I should declare in the return. I pay taxes so that this separation clause cannot be invoked against me. Is this what been expected from me? In order to get away from the separation, I should be paying taxes, including the return, thereafter file refund claim. That is not the practically impossible. That's what the Supreme Court says. So that one decision you can take shelter of. The another decision was the sales tax decision. The SEC was holding a bona fide view in concluding the turnover, whether the freight element is required to be included or not, whether the turnover will include the freight element or not. And accordingly, SEC was holding bona fide view and not included the turnover in the freight. Then that Supreme Court also said there is no separation, because SEC was holding bona fide view. Therefore, even though they are specifically declared in the return, if you are still holding bona fide belief, that is not required to be. It's not merely your wishful thinking. It's not wishful thinking based on some decisions, some opinions, or something. If you are still holding that bona fide belief, then you can get hold of this separation clause thereafter also. Any questions on this, sir? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes. 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 Correct. Sir, unfortunately or fortunately, it's a mixed question of facts and law. Whether you are surprised or not, the mixed question of facts and law. In each and every case, you can't say there can't be any straight jacket formula to say that in this case there is separation, in this case there is no separation. There are facts, there may be differences. In his facts, previous decision in favor. In his facts, somebody else completed decision in his favor. He has followed. So there are further judicial developments. So according to me, sir, there can't be any straight jacket formula or this thing to say that in this case separation is there, this case What whichever way, whichever you tell me your facts, I can tell you with this it falls in this line or that line. That alone, I cannot lay down this particular precise line. This case separation, this case not separation. That can't be a mathematical precision is not possible in this. But each individual fact and circumstance we can certainly contend whether separation there are. Yes, sir. You are asking something. Yeah. Correct. Correct. Yes. No, but they only thing is earlier this option was not available with them because separation was not statutorily defined. Now separation is statutorily been defined that if any information is required to declare, not declare, that's separation. Yes. Correct. Correct. Yes. Correct. 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 Yes. Correct. 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 No, therefore, sir, if you are feeling that the officer or executive authority or appellate authority is going to give you relief based on the Supreme Court decisions, that's your high expectation. I will say high expectation. He will not have any regards whatsoever with respect to. He will simply one line you have to see what decisions you are citing is income tax decision, what decisions you are citing is sales tax decision. These decisions are not relevant GST. In fact, one of the case the commission was very side case law side में रख दो. GST में है some high court or supreme court is there, then only you tell. Otherwise, keep it aside. Yes, ma'am. Correct. That's the incorrect interpretation of law. So far as the Central Act is concerned, whatever judgment laid by one high court that is binding across India. So long as there is a contrary decision is not there, that decision will bind across the India all authorities. That is certainly binding. If there is a judgment of Bombay High Court, certainly that will bind. If there are contrary decisions, he can independently take his view. But if there is a decision of the Madras High Court, no contrary decision of any of the high courts, then Madras High Court certainly bind the assessing officer sitting in Bombay. That is binding on him. That yes, absolutely correct. So don't expect that they will do so. Don't have your expectation. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hmm. Hmm. No, it depend upon on what. Suppose we are proceeding under 74, then it's a different question altogether. Because in that situation, you have to prove separation is not there. If they are putting under 74, okay, then you can quote the circular, the idea circular which you have cited, that in case of merely delayed payment of taxes, this should not be invoked. And there again, somebody can say that I have initiated the audit proceeding against you. Audit it was realized, but in audit also generally they grant you the option to make payment of tax. And generally they don't initiate the proceeding. But if they are doing so, they are issuing the proceeding, then probably that penalty may be leviable. Yes, correct. Yes. But in that case, na sir, in that case, you are saying you have paid tax interest audit proceeding during the audit proceeding. So ordinarily they should not initiate the proceeding because you have already paid tax interest. But they are initiating the proceeding, then probably penalty may be leviable. Then they can say that in view of 7311, the circular will only say that. Therefore, the circular clarifies that generally, they say generally, where there is only case of belated payment of tax, we do not initiate any proceeding under 73. That's what the circular says. But if they initiate so, if the proceedings are initiated under 73, then that penalty may be payable, but still there are certain arguments to say. Yes, sir. Yes, correct. So in that case, he will proceed against you for issuance of notice under 73. If you have not paid interest, he will certainly issue notice under 73. If you issue notice under 73, then 7311 will apply. 7311 will apply. Yes, sir. Generally, nowadays, what is happening? Any 2A versus 3B or section 16(4) is yes. Again, they are trying to cover under section 74. So whether that is a separation or not. B, if it is not separation, how far they can stress and make us be under section 74 or show cause itself can be invalid or whatever, some light on that. So you want to see in a special facts of some case where you have taken credit beyond the 16 for the time limit. 16 for provides you to take credit within such specific period of time. You don't take so, and thereafter you are taking so. Whether it can be amount to suppression of facts. So in that situation, in the return there is no column that to declare that I have taken credit beyond this thing. But in light of the various high court decisions which are against you, or not only, I was in one of the conference I was seeing that Tirumala Konda something that they are saying the great decision, which name? The position has already been settled in the sales tax regime itself. The similar provision in Supreme Court has already held taken a view that the credit is a creation of statute. Okay, it is a concession given by the government. It can very well prescribe the conditions what is required to be fulfilled, and one of the conditions is time limit. The SSC earlier challenged the time limit itself in the weight proceeding, sales tax proceeding. The time limit, you cannot impose the time limit, but the court says no, time limit is mandatory. So therefore, in this case, if you are taking credit belatedly and not informing the department, then that will be suspicious. So considering the definition over here, yeah, does it actually fall into that? That's not the only definition. That's not the only. Some explanation to that. It will not fall under the separation. Okay, going strictly by the definition given under this, but that's not the only provision that if you separate a fraud, malafide engine. Yes, correct. You are correct in saying so. This will not, strictly speaking, this will not fall under separation because they have fallen into a trap by merely defining this. Therefore, they can't go beyond that what is being defined. Here, it's not inclusive. Say separation shall mean that the only two circumstances are covered, required to declare and not declared, information has not been provided. So your case does not strictly fall under this, but they will otherwise they will invoke 74. And if you are not informing department, or your audit report does not contain any such stipulation that credit is taken beyond the time limit, certainly they can initiate under 74. Yes, sir. हाँ कोई कोई बता दीजिए आप बताइए correct 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 yes 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 that will certainly help. You can say because sir, that credit is ultimately beyond the limitation. Whether you are entitled or not entirely will depend upon the Supreme Court. Okay, and as I saying in sales tax voting already been upheld the validity of those provisions. So you just take the credit, reverse it, inform the department that I have taken is, and then contest the matter. In Supreme Court decide in your favor, because if you go and declare that this is what I am going to do, then they will foreclose from issuing proceeding under 74. Therefore, proceeding under 73. In 73, you can proceed contest, and then if Supreme Court decide in your favor, you can argue. Yes, sir. Section 73(9). The amount is mentioned as rupees 10,000 or 10% of the tax amount whichever is higher. Correct, sir. 5 issues. Can the officer have a penalty for each of the 5 issues like 50,000 rupees? Means the amount of tax is below 10,000. Okay, but issue in the, you are saying a case individual issue is less than 10,000, but if you see collectively, it will be more than the thing. There are 5 issues. No, no. That according to me is not correct, sir. Because the issue, no, but notice is one, order is one. It's not the VV section as such. In some cases, we also want VV section. Like these two issue, I want to contest, I want to foreclose. So whether that option is also available with you is the one question to be seen. But The scheme of the Act does not contemplate splitting of the issues, and therefore he ought not to impose individual one penalty only. Yeah. Any other questions, sir? Yes, ma'am.
So I have come from situations where intimation to show cause,
Hmm.
which we call DRC warning.
One
Should there let us say intimation under section 73 slash
slash.
74,
Hmm.
and then show cause ruling under 74.
Hmm.
So how do you counter on that? Of course, you can say that this is not valid because in section 73 itself says that first an intimation needs to be given and then the show cause notice will follow. But then
That's one of the questions we have included in our slides also, that whether the pre-show cause consultation is mandatory or not, even after the amendment, whether the pre-show cause has to be given or not. That's one of the questions we'll answer at that point. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, taken registration from 1st April 2018,
Mhm.
filed GST 1 and PB return to 31st March 20.
Mm.
Now, what the department has done is
Mm.
GST extended its registration effective from
Retrospective.
registry.
Correct.
And now the department is coming to recipient.
Mm.
So the date of registration is 1st April 2018. What says? One, both. They are probably
Deny the credit. Deny the credit. According to me, it's certainly not at all justifiable. In Suresh Trading Company, with respect to sales tax matter, the Supreme Court of Maharashtra Sales Tax, Supreme Court has categorically held merely because the registration has been cancelled does not mean that there is no stipulation in section 16. No? Where is the stipulation in the section 16 which provides that his registration is cancelled? I am not entitled for the credit. There is no such stipulation. Only if the tax is not paid to the government, then certainly they can say that where is the question of giving credit unless until I have received the amount from you. But for that, that particular ground is absolutely incorrect.
are you aware of any case law in GST which allows the GST credit?
Even when there is retrospective cancellation, there are a number of decisions on that. I will give the citations also. There are 2-3 decisions at least we are constantly using, but they are not laying down any great principle of law. Why I remember the Suresh Trading Company is categorically laid down that registration does not have mandatory requirement as such, and therefore that principle equally applies Supreme Court. Na, sir? Suresh Trading Company. I will give the citation also. Yes, sir.
If there are certified default on in case of delay delay, so in that case, the penalty will be for EVP for the mortality for the year.
No, not whatever for the year, sir. The tax is on the individual transaction. Unfortunately, in that sense, tax is the individual transactions. In that transaction, this thing is there, then penalty can be levied individually. According to me, it's not that whatever instances you have done in across the year, one penalty should be imposed. That is not the case.
There are some parking there was no actual billing is done, only billing is done in that particular.
There is no supply, there is no fake invoicing.
They in that interest with the calculation.
Ah. No, no, sir. I am not very, sir. So long as tax is paid to the government, so. Ah. Correct. No, sir, that their circular itself says that in those circumstances we will only levy penalty. So in those circumstances where invoice has been issued and supply is not being done, in those cases they can levy penalty. But having collected the tax from the provider at the recipient end without reassessment, they can't do. The recipient end, they can say you have not received any services. You have to justify. You have to justify that if you have received some service. Like for example, this insurance car, this scheme is going on. So the insurance company makes payment to the intermediary. Intermediary make payment to the insurance agent in order to, because otherwise it will amount to violation of IRDA laws. Circumvent that, they are directly paying to the one intermediary company paying to the individual insurance agent. In such cases, they are denying the credit on the ground that that particular individual intermediary has not rendered any service. But there we are arguing that some service he has rendered, at least payment processing. So in GST, issuance of invoice on my behalf or passing payment for my behalf to the ultimate agent itself is a service. So we are finding some this to that. But if no service whatsoever received, in view of section 155, burden of proof is on you. You have to prove service not been received. very difficult to contend that credit is not entitled, even though he has paid. So you have to receive the service. Yes, sir. Hmm. 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 Correct. Hmm. No, no, sir. In your case, you paid tax in penalty. Proceedings are 73, 74. No, 73 or 74. 73. 73. You have paid tax and penalty. इंटरेस्ट ठीक है ना सर, इंटरेस्ट आएगा तो पेमेंट करो ना, इंटरेस्ट पे इंटरेस्ट नहीं है तो जो ठीक है डिले करो, उससे क्या प्रॉब्लम। अभी आपका 10% पेनल्टी ऑलरेडी पेड, टैक्स ऑलरेडी पेड, इंटरेस्ट को रखो एफडी में थोड़ा दिन, तो इंटरेस्ट आएगा, जब आएगा तब पे कर। यस सर। यस नहीं, Malapan intention, sir. Only thing revenue can say, sir. Only I am from revenue perspective. What he can say is that I have specific. It's not a rule, sir. Unlike Senate credit rule, where the Senate credit rule provide that there is a statutory time limit or something, 14 months or something, whatever the case may be. But now I am incorporated as a part of statute itself, as a part of the substantive provision, which says that you can't take credit, and you are aware of that provision. The horse you are taking credit, and you are not informing to me, then why I should not be treated as a suppression of facts? No, certainly, sir. I am not concluding that in that circumstances 74 will be levied. I am not concluding. Uh, I am only not concluding. I am only saying revenue will certainly proceed under 74 only. We will still, we can examine the facts. Yes, yes, yes. There are notices. Yes, sir. Which one? Due date, sir. Due date of furnishing annuity. Due date. Sorry, we could have mentioned due date also. Next. Ah, go to previous slide. Now, this is also one of the important provisions, section 76. It says that any amount as representing the tax, if it has been collected, you have to pay to the government. What do you mean by representing the tax? Suppose I issue a bill of supply to you and I charge GST at that 13%. Okay, in the invoice, 100 rupees, 13% GST. And the title of this thing says bill of supply. Am I supposed to pay tax? Whatever been collected? If it is collected. Okay. Any other view? Any other view, sir? So, in this case, sir, as I mentioned, the meaning of the word as representing that is very, very important. It's not that each and every collection. Therefore, if I am issuing a bill of supply to you, the representation is very clear to the customer that is a exempt supply to you. Then, whatever tax I incurred on the my purchase, that I am going to recover. Whatever taxes I have incurred, like 13% worth of this thing, that I am recovering from you. That doesn't mean I'm customer is aware 13% is not tax at all. There's no rate which says 13%. So the representation to the customer is not that I'm collecting tax. Collection of price is not illegal. collection as a part of price is not illegal. What is illegal is if you represent to the customer that Bhaiya is transaction per tax is payable, collect it and don't pay it your pocket. So representation is very, very important. If you represent someone, don't pay, then 76 apply, otherwise won't apply. And the 73 5-year scene whether direct recovery can be made, whether the self-assessed tax, whether direct recovery under section 79 can be made or not. In that context, they themselves clarified that you have to follow the principle of natural justice. Even though the provision says that there will be direct recovery, but there may be cases where tax itself is not payable. Exempts apply. If you mention are non-taxable in GST, but if you mention in your return, but whether that will automatically entitle you to collect the issue note without issuing the notice, entitle directly recovery is possible. According to me, is not, and the department also clarified that even in such circumstances, you have to give justification, you have to give notice to the party that why that amount should not be levied. Because if tax itself is not payable, where is the question of recovery? Merely because I mentioned in GSTR 1, but that particular transaction does not attract tax at all, they can't recover under 79. They have also clarified, and rightly so. Then this to limitation of time. Yes, sir. We are actually limitation of time. This thing is very awfully. Yes, sir.
In the trading business, when the quotes are purchased, and the corporate is the back of your so,
Hmm.
so it was the element of tax.
Hmm.
And then
No, no. Absolutely not. Absolutely. There is no representing as that. Next. So nowadays you must have seen that number of notices we issued on the last day. Okay. One question is notification is valid or not. The notification issued entirely extending the time limit. So extended time limit from December, then April, and they keep on extending. What is the validity thereof? We'll see in a minute. So 168A was introduced in finance in GST Act in 2020 that in case any force measure is there with the council recommendation, they can extend so. 168A says so. Then next, these are notification issued extending timeline from time to time. So now you can examine your notices wherever the notice is issued in the extended period of time given by these circulars. Every time you have to contend. You have to contend where आपका जो notification है illegal है. You can't extend. And what's the argument therefore is that एक बार ही कोविड हो गया, कोविड था, आपने extend कर दिया, बार बार नहीं कर सकते. You can keep on extending the time limit. So this is one. And secondly, there is no GST Council recommendation. So far as the first extension is concerned, there is a council recommendation is there. But so far as the subsequent extensions are concerned, there is no GST Council recommendation. And therefore, you can't issue the notice. You can't issue notice in the extended period of time. But revenue, of course, can say that because of the COVID pendency only, my earlier backlog was enhanced, and that is the reason I am invoking that particular provision. And that is merely a continuation. It is merely extension. I am not issuing a fresh notification. I am not issuing a fresh notification. I am only continuing the notice, and therefore I can very well this thing. But suffice to say, wherever your client has received any notice within extended period of time, you have to contend so. And Gujarat High Court has given this admitted the proceedings also. Hmm? Now 76, as I said, there is no time limit to issue notice. 73, 74, everywhere time limit is there. 76 does not have any time limit. Is this mean they can go n number of period of time? Because you have the offense is very, very serious. You have collected the tax and not paid. So after 20 years, 25 years, 30 years also they can come. Answer is no. You can cite both these decisions to say in the context of custom and excise, Supreme Court, to say that even if no limitation period has been prescribed, it has to be done within reasonable period of time. Not only because whether I have represented as tax or not, if the because of the time period after 10 years you will come, I am not in a position to defend because we have seen number of shock notices been passed by in service secretary on that only on that count that the adjudication was delayed. If that is the case, even in this, I could have very well defended that there is no representation as tax, and therefore you have by lapse of time you have foreclosed that my opportunity to properly represent. In such circumstances, it has to be issued in a reasonable period of time. This is also one of the important topics, so we will conclude with this only. This is the last this thing we'll do. 7311 we have seen that the department has unlimited power of exclusion. It says an issue on which the appellate authority or appellate tribunal, High Court has given a decision which is prejudicial to the interest of revenue. In some other proceeding, an appeal is filed and pending. The period spent between the date of decision shall be excluded. In other words, you have some issue 16.4, okay, and that issue is pending somewhere else. Or in your case, or other case, the one of the question we'll see in a minute. Whether department will exclude the time period कि भैया वो मैटर तो वहाँ पेंडिंग है तो मेरे पास अनलिमिटेड पावर ऑफ टाइम है, whether you can do so. Okay, next slide. First question is whether the time limit to issue show count is also extended. Okay, go to back to the previous slide. Section 7511, the period time spent will be excluded. Okay, so what period will be excluded? Whether the show cause notice issuance of this thing will also be excluded, or only time period to issue order will be excluded. Question is clear? This section talks about exclusion of time period. Time period of what? Time period of order, time period of show cause notice, or time period of both? Provisions is there. Okay, आप बताइए सर, प्रशांत सर. Both. Both, sir. Any of provisions is there, sir. Time period, one of the arguments, certainly you are right to say so, that when the time limit for order is extended, time period of show cause has also been extended. That's the one view, sir. That's the one view. But according to me, that's not the only view, sir. I can very well contend. It says shall be excluded in computing the period referred to so where the proceedings are initiated by way of issue of show cause notice. So this will apply only in the case where show cause notice has been issued, okay, and thereafter you want to keep it in call book to say that the proceedings are pending somewhere else. In those proceedings alone, it will apply. It will not apply in other cases, according to me. That's one. Second, this is the last slide, sir. We'll conclude thereafter. Whether the issue should be pending in assess's own case or some other proceeding also will be covered. Go back to previous slide. आप बताइए मैडम. नहीं, show cause has been issued, but the similar proceeding like 16.4 proceeding is pending in his case before the High Court or Supreme Court. Okay, so time period will be excluded. So proceeding before High Court, Supreme Court in his case also excluded in your case.
Then you make argument that the matter is not completed yet. At higher court which is pending, it's not.
It will give the authority and handle to say that I will extend time limit, I will extend time. So whether proceeding should be pending, first and foremost, show cause should be pending in your case, but similar issue is pending in his case before the High Court or Supreme Court. Whether the time period spent 10 years, 15 years, he will spend in litigation, department will spend in litigation, whether that will excluded in your cases is the question.
My expectation is to you, not to that other person.
But they will say that some other proceeding. So that's what the generally in previous regime they used to keep it in the call book. The call book system was in pro, and call book is not only your case. Then some other intercontinental is pending in High Court or Supreme Court. I will not pass an order. I will keep in call book. So similarly here there is no stipulation that in your case it should be pending. It can be somebody other's case also. But does that mean that time period is expired? Time period of issuing order has been expired, and thereafter he will say, I forgot about it, but still because it was pending in Supreme Court, so High Court or Supreme Court, I will exclude that. Whether he can do so? He can't do so. He can't do so. In such a case, what he should do, he should clearly write a letter to you. that भैया ये time period है, I have to pass order by so and so date, but since this proceeding are pending in some other's case, and therefore I am foreclosing the proceeding. Therefore, I am keeping this proceeding in the call book. I am keeping proceeding in call book. You can certainly challenge that order. Don't keep it in call book. My issue and that issue is not same. Or some other ground you can certainly contend or justify. But he can't say that time period is over and now I find some case which is pending in High Court or Supreme Court and based on that I will extend the time. He can't do so. He can't do so.
That's okay. I was yes, before in that case,
Ah,
you take the value of the act.
ah.
You can refer it to a
Yes, yes. Which one, sir? Proceeding pending in his case, correct? Their revenue is an appeal, sir. Revenue is an appeal. Yeah.
can refer it to the general value. You can not about
Why I should do so? Hey, that's what I'm saying, sir. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. In such cases, he can't say that after passing of the time period is over, he can't. That's the besides in this particular issue we are highlighting, sir. In such a case, before the time period expires, he has to categorically he has to say and write a letter to you. In that case, sir, they can rely on this particular provision to say, no, sir. They can say that since the issue is pending, sir, they have on overall basis we think they are extended time and they are given oh very good 3 years, 5 years. Yes, yes, he can do so. Then he can certainly do so, sir. He can certainly do so. Only requirement is then in such cases either you can go to the court and say yeah my case and his case is not same, okay, or but otherwise also, sir, otherwise you can ask or force him. Correct. That the you have to ask that question from the adjudicating authority that you are keeping this matter in call book based on some other decision, whether it is similar or not. You have to justify to me. Otherwise, I may go to High Court and say that because you will also be relying on that decision because that decision is in your favor. High Court is in your favor. Revenue is in Supreme Court. Okay. Any with the prejudice it says an issue on which appellate authority or appellate tribunal High Court has given any decision which is prejudicial to the interest of revenue. No, no, sir, this will can be involved only in the case where the decision is prejudicial to the interest of revenue. Revenue is in appeal before Supreme Court. High Court is in your favor. High Court is in your favor. Revenue is in Supreme Court. But for this decision, but for this section, he has to. Sir, in my favor, he can't keep it in call book. He has. Then he said, yes. But why SSC want to keep it in call book when the decision is in your favor? Ah, yes. Yeah. No, in your case, is it decided in your own case? That will only with respect to assess's own case, correct? That is one. Hmm. 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 No, therefore, sir, we can. No, sir, if it is in the favor of revenue, some other proceeding, if it is in favor of revenue and assessee in appeal, okay, we can alternatively we can't rely on this to say we can alternatively we can request him that matter should be kept in call book, keep it pending because the issue is pending somewhere, but categorically you can't rely on this section. No. Based on this particular section, because this is a special provision given to him that in case it is prejudicial to the revenue. It says a prejudicial to the interest of revenue, na, sir. Hmm. Yeah. Hmm. 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 You are saying, sir, no, it is talks about a decision which is prejudicial interest of the revenue. Merely because you have filed an appeal, an outcome may be in the ultimately the prejudicial to the interest of revenue. That is not sought to be contemplated. Yes, yes. And independently, the revenue as a that then you can challenge this provision of this law to say when it gives option to the department, option given to the assessee also. But unfortunately, by the plain language of this thing not been provided. Yes, yes, yes. Certainly, some point of time it may be read down also, but having said the past practice, when they used to keep in call book, not only in your case, intercontinental pending, they used to keep it call book in your cases. Any other question, sir? Any other question on this, sir? Should we conclude? Sure, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you for giving this opportunity. I think even if you learn some one or two new points, then my purpose is served. At least that's what I believe, and I hope you must have learned one or two at least, not all. One or two you must have learned the one interpretation. You would have done so. It's a vast subject. 1.5 hours is not justice matter, but unfortunately we have to conclude that. Some other position we will take all other questions also. Thank you so much. Thank you. Special thanks to my colleague Jaya. He has done all the hard work. Special thanks to him also.
So, thank you so much, Vinay sir. Thank you so much, Jain. We had this amazing session. I mean, most of us have been looking at 73 and 74, but I don't think so. हम में से कोई भी 75 or 76 कितना detail में we go and read. In fact, 73, 74 is also a struggle. So now we know that we have to work on that zone as well. And sir, this was very insightful session. A lot of queries were answered, and sir rightly said that this topic is so huge. Even 1 day, 2 days is not enough on that. There are multiple issues going on. But I think since it's a new law, it will evolve over time, and probably we'll have more precedents at high court levels. And then once tribunal is in place, we'll have a lot of clarity on the matters. Till that time, every day will be a challenge for us because we all know every day there are new notices coming up. But sir, genuinely, we are very, very thankful to you. We had an amazing session, lot of knowledge, and yeah, thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for giving us this. Okay, we are taking break of 5 minutes, max 5 minutes. So please be back within the break time. Thank you.
Okay, from I don't know. See you.